just speak out. We can tell the truth of what we've seen. We are not liars. So just speak out. We have a duty to all children and to their futures. So just speak out.
Hi everyone. I think I know about half the people here. Thanks for coming to our workshop. My name is Eric Ard. I'm the president of GI Voice, aka Coffee Strong, out of Olympia, Washington. We're a military, we're a Center for Military Resistance and GI Rights, and we're going to talk about, I'm going to be specifically talking about where we've come since the coffee house, since we were centered on coffee houses, why that's not the case anymore, and where we're going. And we're going to talk about coalitions and intersections in general. So I think it'd be a good talk. It's not going to be stat heavy. I think everyone here knows a lot of statistics, and they're all dire. So we're going to have just a organizer, vet conversation, and suss out some good stuff. And Penny.
Well, my name is Penny Dex. I'm an organizer with Mosquito Fleet, Iraq Veterans Against the War, and a member of Veterans for Peace. I've been doing activism since 2011, when a member found me and recruited me into this gig. And basically, when I started doing this, I didn't have any framework. I didn't even know I could be called a veteran. Like, I didn't even know I could go apply for benefits. And it wasn't until I met IVAW that they told me, like, hey, guess what? Your personality adjustment disorder diagnosis is wrong. You're not crazy. You actually have PTSD. You got PTSD from MST. Like, they literally taught me everything that I knew about all of these things, and I was very, very engaged in the activism. Like, I was ready to, like, wear the t-shirt and go out, pass out flyers, and do the workshops and try to get the speaking gigs. And after about a year of doing that, it became really apparent that, like, trying to be anti-war in Portland, Oregon right now is like trying to, like, protest the sky being blue. It's just, it gets really, especially with the threat of ISIS right now and all the Islamophobia that's still going on, even liberal places like that, people, like, are more validated, like, well, we have to have war, like, we have to have drones, because if we don't send drones, then our soldiers are going to get killed. You don't want soldiers to get killed, right? So it just became, I thought you were a pro-soldier, anti-war. What's wrong? So, and every time I would try to speak out and talk to other vets about it, it was always a lot of contention and a lot of, like, what do you mean? Like, why don't you love America? Like, the earth will always cry out for the blood of armies. Like, why are you doing this? And, you know, like, as I grew with the community, I gained more confidence and I gained more framework. And I said, well, because it doesn't have to be this way, because there are alternatives that if we're going to go to war, then we need to take care of the people that we send there. Like, these are just basic things. And I got more established, more confident. Like, Occupy happened, and our friend Scott Olson got here in Oakland, got hit with the head of the tear gas canister. And that was my very first, like, wow, you know, this is my time to speak out and do something. That's when I did my first march in the streets. We took Burnside Bridge in Portland, 5,000 people strong. It's beautiful. I kicked my first cop bike. It was great. And, you know, it was really empowering to do that. But after, you know, a year or two of, like, protesting and holding signs and marching, it just became really apparent that I'm meeting the same people. We're going to the same place for lunch afterward. Like, it's more of a social club kind of than, like, actually feel like I'm doing something. And then, of course, I'm speaking from the perspective of having survivor's guilt and moral injury and, like, I'm alive, my friends are dead. What can I do to, like, honor their memory? And it's not being silent, and it's not just standing around. Like, what can I actually do? What are the concrete, tangible goals that I can have that will actually help improve people's lives? And it was really hard to get to that point during protesting, because I would definitely network with people, and I definitely build my community, and I would definitely find people that were hurting. And, like, through this work, I learned how to do it. I know how to process a VA claim. Like, I know how to make an appointment for other people. I know how to request information. Like, I built my resource hub in Portland to a point where, like, if somebody had everything from getting veteran plates to, like, getting a discharge upgrade, if you had a problem, then, you know, you came to me. Like, if you had to sleep on somewhere, you were going homeless or sleep on a couch, you slept on my couch. Like, I became a little hub at realizing that only one person can only do so much. And, like, after 5 years of doing this, like, I can definitely tell you that compassion fatigue is real. And after you hear the same story over and over again, and you see your friends suffering the same way over and over again, and we get to these patterns of learned helplessness, and, like, a lot of people end up, you know, I would help them get their disability, and then they're like, well, I have all this money now, but I don't have any purpose. What do I do now? Like, and usually that was smoke and drink and play Xbox and get in trouble. So I didn't want that to keep happening. So I was like, okay, what can I do to help bring about, give people that purpose? And for all my Googling, all of my research, I found out about veterans farms. And where the VA on their website will claim that they have a 25% success rate in PTSD treatment, which I'm not really sure what that means according to the VA. The veterans farms were reporting 75%, and their 75% success rate meant that these guys, once they completed the program, like started their own little businesses. They were working farmers market stalls. They were raising chickens. They were selling blueberries. They were becoming part of their community again. Instead of being the scary guy that was a trigger puller for 10 years, now he's the guy that sells your eggs at the farmer's market. And like that to me became really appealing. And on a farm, like all the things about PTSD and being hyper vigilant, like really come into play. Really, that's a helpful thing. Like you notice that hole in the fence. Like you notice the chickens are out. Like you don't mind staying on watch all day. Chase off coyotes and things. So it's just a really good fit. And with Ari and a few others, we just tried doing something called the Veterans Transition Corps. And that Veterans Transition Corps was a group of veterans. We had everything from Air Force National Guard to IDF who wanted to bring this permaculture idea into fruition, teach people skills of self-reliance, how to plug into their communities again. Because once you have this money, what do you do with it? You have to have something else. So I went through that process, and in this process, we tried to go through the Mission Continues. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Mission Continues, but that's an organization where Eric Greitens, a Navy SEAL, started it, and basically he will help support a vet through all of his corporate aid. Will support a veteran for 6 months, doing 20 hours a week at a nonprofit of their choice, whether it be like Red Cross or the animal shelter. So it's a really cool program. And we got sponsored by a Veterans for Peace chapter through another organization because they had an umbrella group called Medicine Without Borders, because we couldn't use Veterans for Peace because according to the Mission Continues, they were too radical and we couldn't apply with them. So, but the good part was we were going to be able to get paid in Portland, Oregon, $2,000 a month basically to start our farm idea. And between the 4 of us that went, that would have been a good chunk of change to do these things. And long story short, we got to the Mission Continues orientation in Chicago, where they paid for us to fly out there. They paid a really nice hotel for 3 days. We got to go to these wonderful orientations where they told us even George Washington thought about suicide, but his troops were there to pull him through. And we just really need to reclaim the veteran narrative because we all these sad stories out there of veterans killing themselves and getting arrested and all these horrible crimes. We really need to push that that idea away and really reclaim ourselves as true patriots who want to help serve our country. And are redeploying into our neighborhoods. So all of that was really cool, and we were down with it, except when we heard the part that we were going to have to sing the national anthem, the Pledge of Allegiance, and God Bless America at a Cubs-Cardinals game at Wrigley Field in Chicago. And during apparently that's the Super Bowl for baseball or something like that, at least in that area. I don't do sports. And football. And we get there, and I was okay, I'm listening. I'm still listening because I was here. I was going to Robin Hood this thing. I was going to take this money from they were getting their money from Goldman Sachs. We found out Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Carl's Jr. Probably an oil company or 9, Bank of America. It was just, and that's the whole thing. At the end of the service project, when you sign up for this fellowship, you get paid for 6 months. But at the end of it, you have to do a service for your organization where you invite 25% of the people that you invite to it have to be veterans. The rest can be from the community. And it's if you work for the Humane Society, you go and you help build new kennels. And if you're a Boys and Girls Club, you help do a outdoor thing for them or repaint a playground or something. But at these parties, at these work parties, they had Goldman Sachs employees get to come out and they can take pictures with you. And and then Mission Continues gets these random donations of $300,000, just magically come out of the air because of all the hard work we did. And all these things. And it just became, this is really icky, I don't like this, but I really want to help my people back home. And then they said we would have to go out there in our BDU pants, our Mission Continues shirts, and then our Made in China Bank of America hats, and down the hand over our hearts while we're saluting. There's a flag on this baseball field, but we were going to be saluting the digital Bank of America flag on the screen. And at this point, I'm still okay, this is going to be the worst thing I ever do in my life, but this is for the cause. But fortunately, the other 3 wonderful gentlemen I was with were just hell no, because they were Iraq Veterans Against the War, and they were Buddhists, and someone who had severe PTSD did not want to be in front of 40,000 people with fireworks, because he lost his friends in the Twin Towers, and it's not something he wanted to experience again when he heard fireworks and shit. So he wasn't even doing it for political reasons. He said he wouldn't go on the field. But Ari, myself, and Ray Harris, Ari and Ray at the time, were arguing for the point that, no, this goes against everything that we're doing. That we're being used as props. We're being used as like something not okay. Like this is defiling like all the work that we've done, the memory of our friends. Like this keeps playing into this conservative bullshit that like, oh, you know, true warriors don't speak about their pain and trauma. They come back. They get better. They reintegrate. They become, you know, they're able to go get that job at Starbucks and, you know, and serve their country that way. So, and we talked for like 3 hours, talked really loudly and through walls with each other for like 3 hours. And finally I got to the point where they weren't going to budge. And and as much as I wanted to do it, it was like, I'm not going forward without my friends. And if all my friends are saying this is wrong, then maybe I need to listen. And at the end of the day, we ended up saying no. And of course, the Michigan Continues had no idea what to do with us. So they were like, this has never happened before for them. They've been around for about 10 years this time. So they're like, okay, whatever, just get in the bus and we'll figure it. It's a bunch of staff sergeants now trying to figure out what's going on, what they're going to do. So they make it work to where we get to stay in the bleachers and the rest of the people get to go on the field. And that was fine. Like we stood up, we didn't say the pledge, but we stood up when we gave the oath. We did the oath. Like we're going to come back to our communities. We're going to help out. We're going to serve our people. The mission continues. Like, to the side. And like, so that was fine. I'm cool with that. It's like the Boy Scouts or the 4-H pledge. I'll do it. And then we get there, like we get done with it. Everyone like high fives. It's like people come up to us like, wow, I wish I could have done what you did. You know, I have kids, but I wish I could have done what you did. You know, and like even employees came up to us like, yeah, when I was in Afghanistan, like that was a goat blank. Like we can't, you know, this is some bullshit. I'm glad that you guys did what you did. But of course, as soon as we get home, we all get emails simultaneously in our inbox saying that because obviously we're so anti-American, and not because we wouldn't do these things, obviously we don't want to serve our country. And, you know, then we're just not American enough and the mission continues. And I am permanently banned now from doing it again, so are the rest of the people. Okay. At the time, I feel that way now. At the time, I kicked a hole in my kitchen door and just had one of those moments where I almost had the cops called on me because I was so furious. Like, how dare they? Like, what do you mean I don't want to serve my country? What do you think I'm doing this for? Like, I am helping people. I'm doing the job the government won't do. Like, we're actually taking care of our people that you're not. Like, and giving them something to live for, and giving them hope. So the VA does not do a lot of giving hope, fortunately, which is like half the battle in these cases. But so like after that, I got super, super dejected, and I couldn't relate the experience. And there was like for me, there was no justice in the scenario, and like it was like the one last time I was going to reconnect with my parents. My dad was watching Fox News, watching the game. Like, why? I didn't see you. Where were you? And I couldn't even like call them. And like I was just so like, what am I even doing this for? Like, if I'm ever going to like break the narrative and like talk to beyond the choir and like all this kind of stuff, like how am I ever going to succeed? Like, why are we doing the work if we're never going to succeed? And I got to a real dark place. And then, you know, during that, a little bit after that, we had like 3 suicides in IBAW. Like, it got really, the anti-war movement was basically dead after Obama got elected. Like, it was just really, really bad. And you know, I felt like, you know, Mother Teresa had that story where like she would do the work of God, but she wasn't hearing the voice anymore. And I felt like I was going through the motions of like, I have to do this. It's my duty. But like, okay, that's, I stared into the abyss and it stared back into me and I dug the eye contact for a while and it was real weird. But then I'm driving through downtown Portland, Oregon, and I get a call from one of our other veteran friends. And he says, Penny, I need you to clear out your Wednesday through Saturday. And I'm like, this is the person that calls me like once every 3 or 6 months to like tell about whatever thing they need to help with. And I'm like, okay, so what are we doing? And I'm like, well, I can't tell you. And I'm like, okay, pencil in this guy, clear weekend, no reason why. And I'm like, and we have a pretty good rapport at this point. We've done activism the past 5 years together. He was one of my mentors. Like, he was the one that helped me do my disability claim and got me out of the mindset that like, oh, you're not, you know, I still have all my fingers and toes. I don't need to fill this out. Like, I didn't go to war. Like, how could I possibly have PTSD? There's so many people that need it more. And he said, like, no. Like, every time we don't fill out a claim, like, we are disrespecting the dead and we are not showing the true cost of war. And we are not, like, making people accountable for what actually happened. So this is how you tell your truth, is how you get your claim. And because of that, I got my claim, and I got my 100%, after a long course of misdiagnosis and all that, I got my 100% total and permanent for PTSD. Because of the Read More Act of 2008, and bless her heart. But I get this call, and I ask him, like, okay, so I trust this guy completely, and I ask him, so is it bigger than a bread box? And he says yes. And I say, okay, is the bread gluten-free? Because I knew he had been working with environmental activists, and like that was our little, because of course when you do like logistics and needs, somebody, oh, it's always gonna be somebody gluten-free and vegan. So he says yes. And I'm like, okay, so I knew it was gonna be something environmental and a secret, big thing. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I can't tell you anything, I just need you to be on this phone call at such and such a time. And I'm like, okay. And I say yes. And then I get on this phone call, and it turns out it's like the National Lawyers Guild. for environmental things, and basically telling us that we're going to be doing a banner drop from the St. John's Bridge. And, but this banner drop could lead us to like $20 million in fines and felonies, and now we're going to be violating maritime law. And I'm just like, this is really stupid. Like, why are we doing this over a banner? Shell doesn't care about paper. Like, why are my friends have gone crazy? So, like, as far as the environmental movement went, like, I knew about Greenpeace, I knew about Save the Whales, I knew about Sierra Club. Like, I know these things. I like nature, but like, when my friends are dying, when I'm fighting the VA and fighting for the VA, when I'm seeing the guy snort Valium off a mirror sleeping on my couch because no one else is helping him right now going through his addictions and PTSD treatment, like, I don't have time to care about penguins and polar bears. Like, I don't care. Like, the water in Oregon is beautiful. The Bull Run, best water you'll ever have. So it's like, what do I need to care about the environment for? Or the environmental, like, I care about the environment, but like, working in the environmental movement, right? Like, why do I need to talk to these people? These people don't care about my issues. They're not even in my rallies. They didn't take my flyers. So why am I talking to them? So, like, I care about veterans. That's what I care about. And I really did have like an us versus them mentality. Like, I was so narrow in my organizing that I couldn't do anything past like infantry soldier fighting the VA. Like, that was like my comfortable zone, and like anything dealing with that, like that was my hole. And so I get to this. We did the call. We do all the things, and then I'm still on the fence about it, but I'm here for them, and I get a call to come out to this little hotel on the riverfront, and this place is like packed. There's people everywhere. There's vans. They're on phones. They have a really nice lunch. I turned out to be it was Greenpeace office. They had just set up like a little pop-up office, and they had all this logistics going on. And I was told I was going to be a driver, and I'm like, okay, a driver for what? And they're like, a van, and I'm like, okay, what does the van do? And it's like, it's going to go to a place. I'm like, okay. So then I'm used to hurry up and wait. So they tell me to go sit in a room. I go sit in a room. We're like separated from all the other people for like 12 hours. We do this dry run at the end of it where we end up like driving our vans to the St. John's Bridge and then pulling off and doing the sides. I'm like, okay, this thing's gonna be at the St. John's Bridge. We just did a dry run. Something big's gonna happen. We're gonna do the banner drop from here. Cool. And finally it gets to the point where it's like, it's go time. It's 2 a.m. and like I get woken up, the alarm goes off. All these things. I mean, everybody in the hotel gets put into this one little room, maybe half the size of this one. And there's like, you could hear 30 hearts beating and 30 people breathing. And everyone's dressed up like a freaking REI Ninja G.I. Joe with like all the gear and climbing things. And like, this was not the impression that I had of the environmental movement. It was, I imagined like a bunch of kids with hula hoops and patchouli and like dreadlocks and trust funds and granola, all the stereotypes, all the same stereotypes they have about us, we have about them. And, I saw professional, for the first time since like the military, like they looked like special forces rangers getting ready to go. Like they were like people who were couples were like doing last rites for each other. Like it was one of the most intense things I've ever been a part of. And when I finally and then they're giving like the safety brief about, okay, the vans are gonna go, the people are gonna go over. You're gonna have the people need to be under the spider lines, like and then it just dawns on me that this is going to be a living banner drop. That these are going to be the thin green line. That they are going to be people hanging from a bridge to stop this one boat from going to this one place in the Arctic, and we finally have a chance to do something. And it's like, because the whole story was Shell and the Finnica, and Shell basically they were going to start their Arctic drilling with like no safety measures in place with a 75% chance of spill. And I was alive for the Exxon Valdez, and I was definitely alive for the Gulf. It's like that it destroyed the whole Florida. The whole thing is destroyed now. It's just gone because of these people. And I wasn't. If the spill happened up in Alaska, like that stuff's all going to go right back down where I live, like not on my beach. And I like that place. It's fun. And and then the safety equipment that they finally were ordered to have was going to be on this one boat, but then the Finnica broke down, and the one place where they could actually fix this boat was in Portland. And the one bridge they had to go under that was low enough to where you could just have people, it wasn't violating any other traffic, but it was still in pretty good view, was the St. John's Bridge. So this whole huge, how do we defeat big oil, came down to this one boat, this one bridge, and this one opportunity. And it was so well planned out, and it was far as close as I will get to deployment, I think, in my life. And I just remember just being so in awe of what they were going to go do. And I got to drive van 3. That got to drop people on the St. John's Bridge. And I got to, mine was the first van that dropped people off. And I got to look the climber in the face and say, are you good? And he's like, yeah. And I got to give him a fist bump before I left. And we made eye contact. And that is my moment in history. That is what changed my life right there, was that fist bump. And that went on to be the St. John's Bridge action that people are still sending images and mind bombs of today. That's a year later led to Shell not doing the $8 billion to not drill in the Arctic, which is insane. And they tried to say, we weren't going to do it anyway. It just turned out to be too costly. The activists did nothing. I'm like, No, I can't.
No,
Sorry, the camera's on. But I gave them a salute, let's put it that way. And it's just like, just insane to me that like, for the first time I got to feel like I was part of it, since the military, that I was part of a team, that I was part of something bigger than myself, that I actually had people around me that were dedicated and motivated and actually wanted to complete the mission with me, that were looking out for me. Like they ordered me an Uber home after the mission. Like I've never been so well taken care of at an event, even with all the organizing that I had done. So like that just started my whole deep dive into like, okay, what else is out? Like I want to talk to these people. I want to get involved. Like where can we find the intersections? Like how do we organize? Because we have a lot of intersections. Greenpeace has been pointing out for years. The DoD is the #1 user of fossil fuels. Like they're the #1 polluter in the world. They drive the war economy that drives the fossil fuel economy. And like even Black Lives Matter put that in their platform. So it's like now like we used to like we're all divided. Like, oh, if you're anti-war, then you're anti-American. We can't talk to you. Blah blah blah. But now we're like, no, we're fighting the war on the earth. Now we're fighting the war on air. Now we're fighting the war on water. Now we're fighting the war on like just transition. Like this is insane. So it totally. Working with others like has gotten me to capacity and like it's renewed my want to do this. Like I thought I was going to be one of those burnout comet things, but no, it went like this and then it went right back up again. So yeah, it really helps to expand your world and realize that there's still hope. Like there's still people fighting for things. Like even if it's not in the exact same vein, like there's so much overlap. And if we don't find that overlap, like that's how they win. If they keep us divided, if they keep us bickering, if they keep like these generational gaps, like all the things that happen, like this is how they win. And just as hard as we're fighting for this, they're fighting for what they want, which is to keep the status quo. And that's not what we want, because it's killing us. It's killing all of us.
She stopped Arctic drilling. It was the St. John's Bridge action led to, I was there as well. I helped launch kayaks, and it was my introduction to environmental activism as well. There was a lot of veterans involved in that action. That was very intentional. It came out of members of GI Voice in the South Puget Sound and the IVAW in the Portland area, and everyone that we knew at Seattle member vets were involved as well. The evolution of that since then has been into a group called the Mosquito Fleet, and I don't want to steal your thunder. But the Mosquito Fleet is a break off of the Backbone campaign out of Seattle, and a major organizer for kayaktivism in the United States now, especially in the Pacific Northwest. And the Mosquito Fleet, our work has evolved out of that to be not necessarily just a veterans organization, but our medic was a medic, and our logistics guy was a logistics guy, and we have veterans using their skills to go out and be climate first responders and warriors there.
And like just to speak for us, like we model ourselves after the veterans that came back from Vietnam and helped out with the Black Panthers. Like we got to teach them skills and help them get organized and like just basically help them build the community that they had. Bobby Seale was a Navy person, or was an Air Force veteran. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at now, and there's more to it. I think the point is that we have to work in coalitions now as veterans. At least the young veterans is the conclusion that we're coming to, is that it's not always realistic that every veteran is going to come and start on our letter writing campaigns, or they're not always going to. Veterans leave the service with a myriad of things that they would like to address, and sometimes it's climate change, and that's extremely understandable. And sometimes it's the issues of rape on campus. That's extremely understandable. Whatever the issue it is, though, veterans are from every facet of society, and when we go into the Army or the Navy or the Air Force or the Coast Guard or the Marines, we bring problems with us, and we leave. We take new problems out with us. And so wherever people are coming from, there is an intersection with militarism. There's an intersection with what they saw in war, and it's just finding it, and how can we help veterans be better organizers, or be the great organizers they are unimpeded, I should say. So the organization I'm here talking on behalf of is GI Voice, aka Coffee Strong. Coffee Strong was a GI resistance coffee house in the Vietnam coffee house tradition, It was an excellent one, and I'm really glad that I get to be a part of an organization that did so much. It opened in November 2008 as a college project in Olympia, Washington at the Evergreen State College. The intention was, and when it was first being developed, there were a few early ideas for what Coffee Strong should be. Should a radio station? Should it be a union for the Army? Or what have you? The form it ultimately manifested at its strongest was a coffeehouse collective that also offered GI rights assistance, counseling, both legal and otherwise, mental health treatment, and just providing a space for veterans. Like I said, it was based on the Vietnam model, and it was pretty close to what UFO did in South Carolina, or what I can't remember the name of the Tacoma. Dennis knows. Shelter hat, based on a no longer issued piece of equipment. I think that the Coffee Strong did really well. There's a great documentary about it called Grounds for Resistance. It's available to buy from organizations who benefit from us, and also on YouTube if you just need that information quickly. I think that model worked really well for a while, but after the height of the war, what we saw was a VA, as we heard in the talk last night, there was a VA that was not prepared for a new generation of trauma. And we were faced with the decision of, are we going to dismiss the idea of doing services because we don't want to do the VA's job, or are we convinced that our buddies deserve better now and we can do the government's job better, then we can make them obsolete, we're going to do it. And the answer, I think, was self-evident. We decided to help soldiers where they are right then. Unfortunately, I think holding services in a coffee shop in the same building came with its own set of problems. For one, you have patient confidentiality, you have sensitive issues, and you might have a talent show or an open mic or something going on in the next room. A lot of things conflicted that made it very hard to maintain both services and a business. So the coffee shop was packed up in 2012. Am I right? Is that the year? 2012. At that point, Coffee Strong kept the name, kept doing services in place across the street from Lakewood. We were finding that being so under the eye of the command at Joint Base Lewis McChord's, many soldiers did not feel that they had privacy when they showed up here to begin with. They didn't feel like there would be no repercussions, and in addition to the other things that we used to have for them that was no longer there. The spaces weren't as available. So unfortunately, like many other coffee houses around the country, we didn't see a future in that going forward. Luckily, we have a lot of great people in the VFP, Rachel Corey Chapter 109, Olympia, Washington, who always picks us up when we're falling down, was there and supportive, and there were a lot of people who just did not want to see the end of an organization like that. We reassessed what was important and what we were trying to do. The first thing we did was we shed ourselves of the burden of our drop-in location, because our drop-in location was 2,300 square feet and about that many dollars a month. It was incredible when there was that space available, but whenever it was just 2 or 3, 5 or 6 people a week coming in, not every single person did need 3,000 square feet. And so immediately what we were able to do was to disappear about 2/3 of that cost and bring our monthly income in to under what our sustaining donors was, which allowed us to keep our head up and build back resources and build back our capacities, reassess what we did really well, and figure out how we could get it to the people that needed it most more often. And the big project that we're doing now is we've acquired an RV, a recreational vehicle, and we are outfitting it into a mobile office so that we can take the things that Coffee Strong was really good at, which was We have the only VA accredited agents that were employed by the VA in the state of Washington. We have GI rights counseling to back it up. We have connection to the GI rights hotline, and we have this giant community of people who are still standing by, like an army in wait, to stand up and help people. So instead of abandoning that, we're sharpening the focus of our mission to provide those services to the homeless or precariously home veterans and vulnerable neighborhoods, vulnerable veterans and vulnerable neighborhoods. The mobile RV center will be able to just be really focused and address from the point that this veteran doesn't have access to the wealth of resources that have been propped up for veterans since the Iraq War started, to getting that person an expedited proof of service so that they can enter into services, to counseling that individual on how veterans benefits claims, health benefits claims work, and be there for them as advocates, help them about their initial intent to file, so that as soon as possible, whenever they do get their claims benefits, it will be backdated, and just being very good about knowing what communities we're going into and being able to refer them into programs that are full of professionals that are excellent, incredible at getting veterans where they need. This is born out of our core competencies and LACEs that we've been developing since January of this year, where we have assisted an organization called Sidewalk, which is a rapid housing organization, develop the Sidewalk Homeless Veteran Services, and that will be the core of the services that we're taking on the road with us. They'll just be expanded to make them more appropriate for the environments that we're going into. It's an exciting prospect, and it's something that I'm trying to give the next most of my days for most of the next few years, and making sure it has an enduring impact and year over year. Otherwise, we haven't lost track of our social justice, and we work through coalitions with other social justice groups to make sure that we're addressing those things. At the moment, we're at the very beginning of a campaign in Olympia, Washington, to stop military shipments through the port of Olympia, but we're not taking the lead, and we're not doing it alone this time. We fully realize that those issues influence or impact a lot of groups, from militarization of the police to the environment. The Port of Olympia right now ships logs from the Olympic Peninsula. It ships fracking sand to North Dakota, and the third prong will be occasional shipments of or deployed equipment through the U.S. military. We think that is a port that port is an intersection of itself. It's just it's everything bad that a port could be and nothing good that a port could be. So we're working that issue, and we stand with all the old issues that we always have. We're still planning events around Chelsea Manning's stay in prison, and we support Black Lives Matter within our community, and we will react to everything going forward in a coalition manner, and just being veterans within movements and being a resource for veterans. And so I think that's where we were, and that's where we are now. Instead of being a coffee shop, we're a Center for GI Rights and GI Resistance, and I think that is the model that we need, a place where any veteran organizer in the community can come to as a hub and as a resource and be a better organizer. Okay, so we wanted this to be about intersections, and we were hoping to open up the floor and talk about those. If anyone has questions about how one thing might, we could do it like this. We could start with militarism, and if anyone could popcorn style give a suggestion, maybe as a group all together, we could talk about what those intersections might be through different social movements. Here first and here.
I just wanted to, my name is Lisa, and I just wanted to throw out there that you're talking about organizing and talking about all of these things, and what we all need to be spending more time in this intersectionality talking about is the use of simple encryption. It's
important.
because the militarization that's happening, a lot of it is data driven, a lot of it is computerized, a lot of it is the way that we communicate to be better organizers, and that same PII information, personal identifiable information that you're talking about being in an open room, we all need to carry our mindset and realize that that's on telephone lines, and everywhere else that we go with the CCTV and all of that. So
Mosquito Fleet has hackers on that. We use Tor and Signal.
I'm wondering what you think about, so I'm really involved with the Worker Center, and when I learned about Worker Center in school, one of the analogies that the instructor gave, ironically, is that, you know, what's the analogy with the anti-war movement? It's obviously like coffeehouses, so I'm just wondering what you think of that analogy, whether you think, what's in common about those two similar models?
The workers' movement?
Yeah, worker centers.
Okay. Can you elaborate on worker centers for a moment? For me and everyone.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry.
We're not all cool kids.
So worker centers are forms of like what some people call alternative labor, which means like generally reaching out to communities that traditionally have not been able to be part of the traditional labor movement.
Mm-hmm.
People of color, very poor people, LGBT people, young people, and these people that are generally not unions. And I don't want to take up too much time, but basically, I think it's similar because it's a space provided for these communities to self-organize, and it's a resource for place where people can learn about their rights. But more importantly, we know that the only way we get our rights is to demand them. So more importantly, the space is organized. I feel like coffeehouses are very similar. What you're doing. I just wondering what you thought of that. If you agree, I guess.
I wish one of our founders, Josh, was here. He'd be really stoked to handle this question because the GI coffee houses in the 60s and definitely Coffee Strong whenever Josh was working this early on, the model was, the problem was that the Army was ununionized, right? That was a lot of people's analysis. That these guys have no union. And of course, getting an actual union in the Army would be, who knows? But right.
G4 Mafia.
There is something in the Army now called Better Opportunity for Single Soldiers. It's like a quasi union, but it's under the thumb of commands, and it's mostly to turn you into a photo op building a playground or something. The Vietnam era was based on the idea that there was a union and you had to build para-unions for it that did the same functions. And if you look at our skeleton of, even here like the GI rights hotline, the benefits claims and legal advocacy, and having those support networks, it's based on unionism. I mean, it is where our best ideas came from. And I see other similar things and movements today. I know the Working Washington movement in Washington State is a para-union. SEIU, the nurses union, helped start it. A very large nurses union helped start it. But they perform the roles that unions would for people who can't unionize. For instance, if there's 2 or 3 McDonald's workers working at different McDonald's stores within a union and a Wendy's person and someone that works at Sears, they can all go on strike at the same day together. And then Working Washington would provide legal observers and provide legal counsel and support, all the things that a traditional union would as best they could. And I think that's sort of the same thing that we try to do over here. Not explicitly working for a union at this point, but explicitly working so that we would have the same resources as does that help? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, that's certainly.
Yes.
Yeah, I work in sustainable consumption and and local food and agriculture. These are the sectors I work in localization, community localization, and thriving communities. And looking for the intersection of the effects. And I know that there's Jeff farmers, there's farms not harms, and lawns not bombs. So there's like, it seems like there's I'm looking at how to express the connection between the confronting power and the transforming power, those two threads of movements, people who are not confronting power, but they are trying to build a new society or build a different way of living within the society that we have. Do you see any, what do you see about intersectionality there?
I think a lot. Oh, did you?
No, go ahead.
Actually, you have more experience than.
Well, like with the veterans, the growing veterans farm up in Bellingham right now, they actually have a booth at the VA right now because a lot of vets we don't take care of ourselves. We do not do self-care. We do not eat right. Like we have the move on program at the VA for a reason or whatever. Like it's like just being able to like have a community where you can have a garden to grow food and then to share that with the veterans or share that with people. Like just realizing that this is a resource that we all need access to this kind of thing to eat it better and have better health care, and like it feeds into that kind of thing. So that's how I always thought from that perspective.
I've seen some different things with veterans agriculture, and are you asking how to?
Agriculture, but I'm looking for the bridge. You know, there's the whole sustainability movement. You know, and it's sort of a subset. It's sort of the visionary, build a better future part of the climate movement.
The just transition part.
Yeah, the just transition part.
That's what it means. It's like getting off, like showing, like we could have fast food that doesn't kill you. Like we could have a food system that doesn't cause oppression. That we can get rid of food laws.
So there's a lot of activity over there, and how do you see it linking with vets? Because vets don't show up at our events.
Right.
Mostly, or are they not identified as vets?
Is this related to this? Or did
Yes.
you? Okay, you go ahead then.
Yeah, I would say that part of it is aiming more at rebuilding new society too. I mean, it's reducing our needs for the things that we're starting wars to get. And I mean, it's a way to communicate why it's important for them to support it, like and support shift and support each other.
It's a shift away from the war economy to like the peace economy. Like it's that part of that transformation thing.
So what are you seeing actually on the ground between interest groups or that's happening, that's making that need?
Okay, you want to go ahead?
In Olympia, we have an organization called Enterprise for Equity, and a number of veterans go there as well as others who want to develop a business plan, learn how to market things. So, for instance, we have the Nineveh food truck, which is a Syrian food coming from two Syrian refugees that went through the program. They have wonderful food they give back to the community. Veterans farming is going into this area too, so they're helping people develop the skills to not only grow stuff, but then to be able to live doing that. And so that is one particular organization. It's a nonprofit perhaps there are others throughout the country, but Enterprise for Equity is filling a need where people come together and we refer people on. You know, if you don't want to work for the person, you know, maybe you want to work for yourself.
That's a good point, and I'll talk about that a little too. So this Enterprises for Equity, it's a 3-phase program. You get business training, you get agripreneur training. They help you develop your business plan. It makes you more qualified for, if you're low income, it makes you, which most recent vets are. It basically guarantees you up to a $50,000 micro loan. It's an excellent program that hasn't been fully utilized to how it could be yet. But the projects that I've seen that have tried to integrate Enterprises for Equity was making it as a part of a track system that toward the end of it. Whereas you look at just the wide range of things that veterans might have that other people might not to get to where they want to go, and say, like, well, first let's use your vocational rehab, and let's use your GI Bill to get your training first. And if you have a certification in agriculture, and then you can buy farmland with your GI Bill as long as you have a certificate showing that you can turn that land into productive land. And so just so finding, not relying on just one organization to to solve everything, but figuring out how to reconfigure other existing organizations and to even build a new organization to bridge gaps where they exist, and provide tracks for people to get where they want to go. I think it'd be very easy to have a program that put in a year to put a vet in a 5-acre farm over and over and over again. Although when you talk about vets who are looking to agriculture, what I found is not everyone wants to join a Jeffersonian, Cascadian collective of farmers. Some people really do want, unfortunately, but some people really do want to be a project manager at Tillamook or something, and I don't know what to tell those guys. I can try to tell them something else, but they might walk away legitimately wanting to do that. And so I think that's what has been undermining those efforts, is not being flexible enough for the needs of individual veterans. I mean, we can make niche programs all we want, but niche programs typically end up becoming more niche and isolated. And so, yeah, so that's my opinion on it. I'm not a vets and ag guy, but I know a lot of great people who are. Do we have a stack that I missed?
It's 4:15, so we're over, or it's 4:17, but we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. I think.
Okay, I know it was 3 people here. I don't want to order people incorrectly. Who was first? Okay, you're first.
I was gonna say, I do work in police power, and explaining it to explain the brutality and that sort of thing. And that's an obvious intersection in multiple ways to vets, because vets go in and become policemen and then sometimes have PTSD, which then affects them. But then homeless vets are on the receiving end, so there's a lot of intersection. And my future son-in-law is a vet policeman who personally is working within his police department to try to change the culture. My guess is, he's just lost friends over that, like standing up for Black Lives and stuff like that. But there's many ways in positive and negative in which that's intersected with that particular.
Absolutely. I think this is a really powerful concept that I hope I've embraced, and I hope vets come to embrace, that there's a duality of privilege and oppression, and it's not so clearly delineated where that ends and begins sometimes. And I know that if I walk into action, there are certain things that make me way safer than someone else, and certain things that make it way more dangerous for me than other things, triggers and just situations I can't handle anymore. But the way police react to me versus the way police react to maybe you or maybe some of my Black Lives Matters friends. In every situation, it's going to be different. There are different roles for different veterans. And sometimes I think it's almost obvious. And I think in Black Lives Matter, I think we know. I think younger vets know exactly what we should be doing. We should just be out front listening and taking blows. But that brings me to someone I wanted to let speak about something related to that dual power. Ari, would you like to talk about the Rural Organizing Project in Oregon very quickly and what veterans are doing there?
Sure. Well, the Rural Organizing Project is a progressive politics organization that's been organizing in rural Oregon for the last 20 or so years. And I recently have been connected with them through some different organizing, doing security for some events that they promote across the state. Particularly this speaker, professor, and writer, and Walida and Marisha was doing a tour around Oregon, speaking about why there are so few Black people in Oregon and the history of entrenched governmental and cultural white supremacy within Oregon and how we are at the places that we are. And that organization, the ROP and Oregon Humanities, funded that, and I was asked to come along because of my experience in the military to help provide security because death threats and other things have been put towards Walida at previous times, as well as organizers with ROP have their houses broken into, their lug nuts on their car loosened, their fuel lines cut, GPS trackers put on their car. And even during the 6 events that I attended in who did security for and like did training to local folks. We also did trainings with local folks who were helping with security so that they could build their own infrastructure there. You know, there was an event, multiple events where known white supremacists came into the event and didn't disrupt them, but would gather information, take pictures, this kind of thing. And then outside of one of them, there was a group of men in a pickup truck who threatened women with rape and dismemberment. And where a lot of this stuff is coming out of is like the right-wing militia movements of like the 3%ers and the Oath Keepers. And they know that information because, you know, we have people who follow that online, and you can gather information through Facebook and other things about who they're targeting. I know some other veterans and other people who have, you know, experience in their life that is with like combat, like some of my comrades that were in gangs and have experienced, you know, white supremacy because they're black, and who are martial artists and who come from other marginalized communities who are engaging in like other things beyond like ROP stuff of like Stop the Trump coalitions and coalitions that will begin to provide security, physical and otherwise, and philosophical about from folks that are, you know, coming at us on all fronts. And that like you can be a peaceful person and still be someone who believes in self-defense and defense of communities, and that it's a privilege really to be able to engage in peaceful protest and have that be somehow effective to you. And that a lot of people don't have that choice or any sort of agency for survival, and we need to acknowledge that and recognize it. And I think we need to like lend our experiences and strengths as veterans to that when it's asked for. You know? Because, you know, like there was a guy who's a known blogger. He would do this. His name's Michael Strickland, and he does this YouTube channel called Laughing at Liberals, and he goes to left-wing events in the Portland area and films them, and then like doxes people, which is like gets the information of those people that he's filming, and then like releases it to InfoWars and other websites and on his pages, so that then, and most of those folks are like POC, women, trans women, and gets right-wingers to target them. And this person at a recent Black Lives Matter protest a few weeks ago pulled a loaded pistol, and he had 6 extra magazines for his Glock 26 9mm, as well as a 30-round mag. And luckily he didn't shoot anyone, but he pulled his pistol and racked around into it and waved it across the crowd. Yeah, there were undercover police present, but surprise, surprise, they didn't even draw their weapons on this person. And some people finally like walked him away, and then the police came and arrested him. But, you know, had that been somebody else actually standing up for justice, you know, and they'd be dead, or just a person of color, or another marginalized community member, you know, exercising their Second Amendment rights, let's say. So like these threats are real and they're happening in rural Oregon, in the city, and those of us who might be cushioned from it need to like actually begin to listen, like some of the people who were on the panel earlier today, talking about like intersectionality of movements of like Palestinian and Black lives. And they were just saying we need to sit down and listen, and then when asked for help, like offer that. And if it's specifically something like that, you know, I think it's my duty as someone who is an airborne infantryman, an occupier in Iraq, that if people ask me to like put my body on the line, that I'm gonna put my body on the line, and I'm gonna, if that means I have to like put somebody down, you know, to protect people's lives. That's, you know, I believe that's what self-defense is about. That's what peace through justice is gonna have to entail, you know, and that's like a natural thing beyond the Constitution of the United States, is like that of self-defense, of preserving life and culture against genocide. And I'm going to stand, if people want to see me as like useful in that, I'm going to stand with that.
Dennis, and I think this is probably the last one.
Yep.
Unless there's a really burning desire out of someone.
I'll be here all the rest of the day till Monday too.
Many communities have cable access television, and this is a perfect opportunity for all the veterans in this room to talk to their local cable access provider to see if they have a community access television. In our area, we have Thurston Community Television, being renamed Thurston Community TV. Mark and I have been on this for at least 8 years, producing Veterans Hour, which is shown 8 times a month. And then we put it out on YouTube, which gets further things. But this is a perfect opportunity to get your voice amplified. So what you see here will be on YouTube, but it'll also be on cable access because we do a lot of post-production work. And I encourage people in your communities to explore, are there opportunities that we can do that? Or if you have access to a video camera, there's a number of us who would love to get your copy of what you shoot and amplify that to get it out to the world.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so that is it. I am going to also make a pitch real quick because I have everyone here and I can. If anyone is interested in helping us get the mobile van up and running, we need donations. You knew that. You knew that. We need donations. I have a history in logistics, business process design and management, and I've project management, and I hate wasting people's money because I hate asking for it. So I only ask for as much as I need. And I promise you that I need $11,000 the first year and $5,000 every year afterwards. It comes down to less than $5 a veteran the way I design this, and if you guys help me do it, it's going to be awesome. So if you want to, we can take credit cards, cash, or checks. Just see me afterwards. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming and listening to me talk for so long.